I think we have to recognize, I've always said that I think the COVID pandemic was a wake-up call. I don't believe it's the great pandemic. I believe the great pandemic is still in the future, and that's going to be a bird flu pandemic for man. It's going to have significant mortality in the 10 to 50% range. It's going to be trouble, and we should get prepared for it. I do believe that the pandemic risk is a greater risk of the national security of the United States than Korea, China, Russia, Iran. And we ought to start investing proportional to that national security risk so we're prepared.
So we'll have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is will get attention this time. We'll have to prepare for the next one. That, I'd say is will get attention this time.
What's going on, y'all? Welcome back to my channel, and on today's report we're going to talk about the Gates-funded lethal hybridization of the Spanish flu and the bird flu, going into this lethal Frankenstein-type simulation that's organized and planned and controlled, and pushing it into the public, which can destroy 50% of the population. Now, I want to get into it because I've been seeing a lot of articles throughout the media. I've talked a lot on this channel about predictive programming. You start to see it trickle in, and then you see the same phrases more and more. And how ironic has it been that we just passed Easter and there's an egg shortage because we're hearing about the bird flu, and the way for people to get to notice that there is something going on is to put it right smack dab in a holiday when everyone decorates eggs. So it was more than convenient. Over here, this article just recently dropped. The next pandemic, H5N1, H7N9 influenza, more than 100 years after the 1918 Spanish pandemic, which killed millions of people. Type A influenza virus not only poses one of the largest threats to the modern world, but the risk of spillover of avian influenza from poultry to humans is growing. So here we also see the predictive programming regarding how our food and how we grow our food and how we raise our food, our protein sources, are a danger to the public. They're trying to basically advertise how our way of producing food via farming and create a controlled demolition of our protein supply, all in the name of zero carbon, and especially all in the name of Gates wanting to 100% control the food and push lab-created foods and move 100% to synthetic beef. Because this is such a crisis, this will destroy so many people. We have to change and make it better. We have to change farming. Even though we've done it for centuries, we have to change it now and push this agenda. So here's another article where it says, could bird flu be the next global pandemic? And then down here it says the same thing they're trying to push, the same predictive programming, the controlled demolition of our protein supply. At least 75% of new human diseases emerge from animals. Animals equal danger. We have to fix this danger. How do we fix this danger? Omit animals. How do we omit animals and still eat? By our lab-created synthetic beef, synthetic chicken, our insect proteins, and things of that nature, which are all bad for our health. If you guys want to refer to more information about that, I have plenty of videos on this playlist regarding those things and how this is all orchestrating perfectly. So I screenshotted this article and I wanted to show it to you guys. It says, U.S. studied spread of infections via migrating birds in Ukrainian labs, Defense Ministry. Now, back to the video that I just showed you guys of the former CDC director. Dr. Fauci synchronized with what he was saying and said the bird flu will be the real pandemic, and even cited the same fatality numbers that the Gates Foundation funded this research project back in 2008, I'm going to get to that in a minute, by splicing genes from the Spanish flu and the seasonal influenza to make a mutant hybrid, a very fatal, lethal bird flu that will kill off half the world population. And this article right here shows how this was a very funded and studied research, and it ties back to Gates, who invested in 2008 and calls for the fake meat to reign the throne of our protein supply. So back in 2008, the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation started to give grants, $1.3 million to a man named Yoshihiro Kawaka. I'm going to call him Yoshi, who researched bird flu and still does. And this was to identify mutations in bird flu that could lead into a pandemic later on in life, later down the road. Again, we talk about these simulations all the time, particularly in this video, we're talking about the simulation of the food chain reaction game, which happened in 2015. Ironically, the same year that the H5N1 pandemic reached its peak, and it was the same year. So Gates funded this guy Yoshi to research bird flu and see the mutations he could create in bird flu using the bird flu gene, splicing it to cause a massive pandemic. And what he unveiled in his research was that he was able to mix the Spanish flu that killed off millions of people and put it into the bird flu, mutated it, created it to be more lethal, not only to birds, but to humans as well. It crosses over. So when Bill found out that he could do this in his study, he was very happy about it. And he gave him almost another $10 million to continue this research in 2009. And in 2009, he did it. He proved that this could be done. And then they say in this article that they wanted to identify virus mutations to serve as early warnings and can implement, get this, social distancing. Okay, this term, I've only heard of it in 2020. This term was being used in 2009, and vax development for preventative maintenance, I guess. So he, therefore, was able to hybridize bird flu and the seasonal influenza. And these articles are very scary, and we see this shocking controversy. It was very controversial when this came out, but not a lot of people remember and know that this came out. And this was extremely controversial because when you create a deadly flu strain, again, they were very interested in how to get the bird flu to humans, how to fill that gap, how to fill that jump, how to get it done. And it says right here, scientists express horror over the creation of a virus that could render the human immune system completely defenseless. This was an article that was released in 2014. And it says some members of the audience, however, were shocked and astonished at his latest and most audacious work on flu viruses. This is talking about Yoshi, which Gates funded, which follow on from his attempts to recreate the 1918 Spanish flu virus and an earlier project to increase the transmissibility of a highly lethal strain of bird flu. Why would you do this? And then in 2020, scientists say an apocalyptic bird flu could wipe out half of humanity because they filled that gap. And it was very controversial because if you create something, you can't put a stop to something like this. The moment that it's unleashed is the moment that it'll completely wipe out, as the CDC former director said, up to 50% of the global population. And again, animals are so dangerous. They're bringing on so much disease to us. Therefore, we need to create the divide and draw the line and stop farmers, incentivize farmers, kill all the animals, say they're dirty and dangerous, and go to 100% synthetic meat, 100% synthetic lab-created, gene-edited protein, and control the food once and for all of the population. So, I hope you guys found this video very interesting. Please consider to go over and support me over on Patreon, as this content is pretty risky and highly censored. And I'm going to go actually into a Bible study on this if you guys are interested in that, because this goes into God's 4 judgments that have been prophesied in history and come true in history. And it is so biblical. But anyways, with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please share it, and I will see you guys in the next upcoming video. Thank you so much for watching.